This is a public hearing on innovative grant acceptance. So, Mr. Smith, would you talk about that, please?
Okay. As you know, we received a grant from, or applied for a grant for a bike tech program. And we were fortunate enough to receive the grant. So the grant includes, the majority of the grant is for the equipment, the tooling, the benches, the stations. Bikes are included, as well as the textbooks and online access for textbooks. And then there's a small stipend in there for the instructor for 1 year. And that's a total of $45,800. And as we discussed, this is a grant that we want to institute this class next fall. And understand that we'll have to incorporate some present instructors moving forward, or apply for other grant monies.
I guess one of my questions before was, does this replace a program?
It doesn't replace a program, but it adds to our sequence of STEM classes. So right now we have offerings really Lakeway Middle School, and soon to be next year in the high school, Project Leadway. And this will be an intro to hopefully one of those courses, engineering STEM courses. So this course can provide training or education for someone who would like to go out into the field and work in the bike tech area, or go on to other STEM offerings.
Okay.
So we see it as an intro level class.
Okay, and the space that you're going to provide this in?
We're going to use the space, one of the tech rooms underneath the cafeteria, which I did show a number of people the space who were involved in bike repairs and well aware of the equipment that's going to be used, and they seem to think it's very adequate space.
Place to store the equipment? That
There's
seems to always be an issue with us.
Yeah, there's a storage area there as well. Just have to be careful because, and certainly working with Mr. Pryor, that's where our, the oil tank in the parking lot, that's where the oil comes first into the building. So obviously we have to be careful and make sure that's safe.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Any questions from the public? I guess not. So with that being said, this public hearing is closed.
Do you need to do a motion during the hearing or later come? Shut the grant fund.
That should be during regular business.
Okay, so with that being said, I'll call the school board meeting to order. And we're recognizing the girls' tennis team tonight.
Yes,
So
yes.
Committee,
Some of them
stand
are
up,
in the
some of them
hall.
Really,
Girls'
Except for Lynn.
I can still stand up.
Yeah.
You got a camera, you have to be on the camera.
This is really bad.
But you know, I've been coaching tennis for a number of years, and this is some of the players of this year's team, an exceptional team. We did really well, and we were undefeated until our last game.
Wow.
But I just want people, players to introduce themselves, please, and coach. We'll start with
There she is.
Tracy Ross,
Hi, Trace.
Gabby Lovett, Olivia Corey, Victoria Johnson, Brayla May, Nicole Pia, Alexandra Walker. What? I haven't laid out
Alexa.
And we're missing a few players, ranging from funeral to getting their hair done, And I don't know, it's not prom season.
Do you want to name them? Throw their names out there.
I can, but first I just want to just talk briefly about the season, and then I'll mention who we're missing. So, as most seasons, we start in March, and this year is really cool. And we didn't really start going, so we had a lot of games. We had double headers, if you will, not really suited for tennis. But we endured. I don't think we had very many practices due to the weather because it rained all the time. And girls really like practicing in the gym and doing circuits. Not so much.
Not now, it's all in our hands are going like this.
But we had a great season. So didn't mention there's 4 seniors. Gabby, Nicole, Lexi, and Lainey. There are 4 seniors this year, and so we're going to really miss them next year. Played again a great season. Played a hard match. Lainey's a good example of how hard she played on her last match. The injuries from playing in that last match. So she gave it her all, and so did everybody else. But we had a fantastic season. So who's not here? Tell me if I forget anybody. Jasmine Brown. Usually, girls compete against each other, and they determine who the top 6 are. So the top 6 were the seniors, Olivia and Jasmine Brown made the top 6. And then other players, Natalie Rossi, who's not here. I'm forgetting you. Michaela, and Lauren McKee. That rounds out the team. So it was a fun
Strong
season.
group of ladies.
We're still, as you can tell from coming in, we're still waiting for spring.
Well, you represented the school well,
Yeah.
girls. Well, on and off
Thank you.
the court, I might
Congratulations.
add.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
It was nice, I never get a call from the AD or guidance that someone's having trouble grade wise. So these players are very good students as well.
That's a lot.
Great.
That's good. All right.
Good job.
That's it. This tournament's gonna be short.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very
Congratulations.
We'll wait on that.
Laney, did you?
6 to 8 weeks. 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
So the next thing on the agenda is public input. Any public input? Okay. Approval of the minutes of May 20th. Do we hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, the manifest, is that a Kim? Treasurer's report?
Okay, this being the first business day of the month, I do not have bank statements yet. So the reconciliations have not been done, and the
Okay.
treasurer cannot do his report.
Okay,
However, for your viewing pleasure, have a proposed budget move to fund the current year district portion of the interactive boards that you approved at the last meeting. And have to move around a little bit so that I have $30,000 left to cut a purchase order against. And you can see that grabbing mostly from unencumbered funds in the technology area, but I'm also going to grab a couple of dollars from student activities that have not been encumbered. I think we're probably done with most of those for the year. So since it exceeds $7,500, I'd like your approval to go ahead and book the Century.
Okay, do you need a motion?
Motion to approve the reallocation of monies from various accounts in the amount of $37,499.34.
It's actually 32.6.
Oh, 32.6, sorry. $32,600.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I just needed to be clear on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for you, Tom?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pryor, are you gonna talk about the retaining walls?
So far, only two engineers have reached out to us. One has walked the property, which is the same one that we received the bid from, or the quote from the last time. And the other one is planning on coming at the end of this week or the beginning of next week.
So more to come?
Yes.
Okay. All right, the next thing on the agenda is, we have a board member resignation, which was effective like the 24th, I think, I can't remember now. So with that being said, my suggestion or recommendation to the board is to advertise for the position, put it in the newspaper, and then put a date to reply, and then we'll have to interview the candidates that apply.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
So when do you think we can get something in to the newspapers, Patty?
It should be the end of the week, I can't promise.
Okay. So what you do, we'll set a date for them.
It'll be real.
Give them maybe 2 weeks. Board members,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Yes? Okay. Next thing on the agenda is the driver education agreement for 2019-20.
Yeah, that's not in the forward. Looks like I didn't get that to Patty, but you got it.
It's
It's
there.
there.
Yeah, I just missed it,
It's the
okay.
same as last year, right?
Oh, there it
No,
is.
it's a little different, I think.
Like,
Yeah, there it is. Okay. Missed it. Maybe Mike, hit a few highlights. We've gone almost 2 years now with the program.
Like you said, program has gone 2 years, the first year as an employee, and the past year has been my company. And these are the number of students we've had come through the program. And it's been very successful, very well received. The students are extremely happy to have it in the school and not have to be chasing Lancaster or other towns or cities to take the program. It's gone smoother each time we do it. Now that we have the task at the end of the day, works really well. That if I drive with a student during the week, we try to schedule them for tasks with that same teacher as soon as possible, so they don't get behind. And it's worked really well. Very seldom am I getting a call from a teacher that there's a student that's getting behind, and I welcome those calls, because miraculously, if I tell a student they aren't going to be able to drive, they really work hard to get their grades up. So it's gone really well. Mike Stevens has come on board to help me with the program. The summer program is not listed on your sheet, but we have a full class of 30 students signed up. For that class, we have 19 students from Littleton. We have LHS, Above the Notch, Charter School, Littleton Homeschool. We have 19 students. SCU, 35 students. Profile area, I have 5 students. I have 1 from Bath, and I have 5 coming up from Linwood, because Linwood no longer is doing driver ed down there. The instructor that they had hired down there, they no longer are doing it. So I've gotten several students up from Linwood. It's going really well, and look forward to the next year.
Littleton Chevrolet is sponsoring the car, again, at no cost to
It's great.
the district or to the driving school. That this is year 3 now.
Yeah.
That they've graciously
Great car.
provided the car at no
Yeah,
cost.
Very, very happy with the car and their support. We couldn't
Thanks,
do it as easily as we are without their support.
thanks to Dwayne Cody and
Yes.
Littleton Chevrolet.
That's great.
Glad
Wonderful.
it's working out.
Yeah.
Me too. Glad it's working out. There's a lot of happy parents, by the way.
A lot of happy kids too.
Yeah, I know it.
Steve, do we get clarification from Primex as far as insurance coverage for students out of district?
I'll have Tom speak to that, yeah.
Yeah, it's a school activity, so it's covered as any other school activity,
Regardless of where the students are from?
as long as they're students.
We had no problems. We do it profile also, no issues at Primex.
And do you have any idea of how many students from our school district are going elsewhere? And the reasons why they might be going elsewhere?
None that I'm aware of.
I just,
None that I'm aware
I'm
of.
not sure, I'm just wondering if we're 100% or if we're not
I think we
100%.
are. The only times I can think of anybody wanting to go outside is if their birthday's during their sport or something. and
That's why I was just wondering if if there are any, we found what the reasons were, if it's timing, if it's money.
Well, that's why I
if
think
it's-
I've got 19 for this summer. I think some kids have put off taking driver ed till summer. And so we got 19.
That's great.
Local kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
We will need, I don't know exactly where this fits in, old business, new business, unfinished business. We put on the agenda, the public hearing for the grant, but we do need a formal action by the board on accepting the grant so we can move forward, or accepting or rejecting, whichever is the
So
pleasure
that
of the
sounds
board.
like it comes out of new business, so let's do it now.
Yeah,
So do I hear a motion to accept the amount of $45,800 for the innovative grant?
Innovative.
That's what it says up here.
I make a motion that we accept the 45 innovative grant,
$45,800.
$45,800.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, committee reports, personnel, we have none. Facilities, there's a meeting Friday morning at 7:30. Policy, DID inventories, policy DJ purchasing, and policy DJE bidding requirements, and policy BCB, board member conflict of interest, is for second read and adoption tonight. Whenever you're,
Everybody kind of look them over.
Mhm.
Good? All right. You want a motion now?
please.
Okay. The motion to accept policy DID inventories, policy DJ purchasing, policy DJE bidding requirements, and policy BCB board member conflict of interest for second read and adoption.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Do we hear a second?
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. The next policy is DJ 8, purchasing and contracting procurement staff code of conduct. Did you all get a chance to read that? This goes along with our federal insurance policies, guidelines.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I don't know that. I just don't, kind of boilerplate. I was gonna say boilerplate, but I did boilerplate instead. I mean, there's certain things we have to do.
Great.
No, I said no.
Okay.
Do you hear a motion to accept the first reading?
Yeah.
Do you hear a second?
Go ahead.
Second, yeah.
And that's policy DJH. All in favor?
I was gonna make it formal, but.
Oh, well, whatever, okay. And the next policy is BID, is payment for services rendered by school district offices. I don't know if you've had a chance to read this, but the payment for services rendered in the fiscal year will be included in the payroll manifest immediately following the annual school district election. And payment for services of other school meeting personnel will also occur following the annual school district election. That is the change.
So, in layman terms, usually the school board gets after the end of the fiscal year, right, in June? When,
It's been paid in July.
July?
It's been paid in July.
So now, when it's March?
Following.
For the following year.
I don't know, why haven't we done that?
That's why we're doing it.
That's why we're doing it now, that's right.
Okay, real quicker next time, no, I'm just kidding.
All right. Oh my God.
No, good job, no, that's fine.
Greg, are you okay?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Motion to accept policy BID, payment for services rendered by school district officers for first reading adoption.
Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. So those two will go on June 17th meeting next, I believe, again.
Yeah, for a second.
So superintendent's report.
Okay, few things. This morning, I joined a couple of colleagues, Pierre Couture, SAU 35, and Marion Anastasia, SAU 36. We met with a local legislator, Tim Egan. This is the second legislator now we've met with. We started out with the two legislators that came to the Education 101 funding, but we're going to continue to reach out to the area legislators and just sit down and talk to them about all things related to school, education, kids, taxes, yes, funding, all that good stuff. And it's a very productive meeting. We thank, certainly thankful to both of them for taking the time to meet with us. And like I said, we'll continue that going forward with others as well. Kind of in the next week or so, a lot of things will kind of come to fore in terms of the this year's legislative session. As the finance bills and final bills are worked out through conference and then sent to the governor for either approval or in some cases veto. So we'll kind of see what happens over the next week to 10 days as to how much longer things will extend. Hopefully, it won't extend well into the summer, but it's been known to happen before in many places. The North Country Charter Academy celebrated its 15th year the other night of existence. A nice little memento given to all of us to take and share with our boards and communities. Millie and Ann and I were there, and they say there was a gathering of probably 30 some individuals there, board members, superintendents. They also honored the employees, teachers and other employees of the Charter Academy. In its 15 years, it's graduated more than 500 students. So I think that's a pretty significant feat if you think about it. That many students that were it not for the North Country Charter Academy would be less likely, certainly, to have a high school diploma. A lot's been said about it. I think one of the things that stands out a little bit is that it's about when you get superintendents together, that getting them to agree on things is difficult sometimes. And that's probably part of human nature. We all have our own ways of doing things and looking at the world and priorities. But the group of superintendents that came together that formed the Charter Academy were really in unison. And they were really looking at alternative solutions, ways to pool resources, ways to address the needs of students that, for whatever reason, hadn't been successful in the traditional school environment. And so it was, at the time, was lauded, watched with some skepticism, I'm told, about, well, we don't know how long it'll last. Well, 15 years later, 500 and some students and graduates later, it's not only surviving but thriving, and we're certainly want to extend our congratulations and support to Lisa LaVoy and all the employees of the school, as well as obviously congratulations to the students, 3 of whom from Littleton recently graduated yesterday, and those from the other communities as well. So it was a week of graduation for different kinds of programs. We had above the notch graduation this last week as well, 18 graduates in its first year. And we talked a lot about above the notch and the success of the program. It's a work in progress. We are in general, I think, with education today. We're grateful for the Commissioner, Frank Avalblue, for coming up and spending a little time with us that night and interacting with the kids. He really loves that interaction with the students, and he was with them a bit before the graduation and a bit after the graduation, and I think thoroughly enjoyed his time here. The commissioner's been to Littleton many times. I don't know, at least half a dozen times that I know of, and maybe more since he took office, a couple of years ago. So we appreciate his support. I know that Rochelle has worked a lot, obviously, with the DOE. At times had some contact with the commissioner and others of the DOE, and they've been very supportive with this program as well. As you know, I think we were meeting. I was meeting with some administrators the other day, and we were looking at again some things that have come up and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to do for kids and personalize things for kids and make different programs and I think we look at the whole spectrum. We have to continue to push students to do their very, very best. We have to continue to find supports for students that need some specialized support. And I think one of the people present said, how many programs do we have, or how many alternative programs do we have? And I think that, again, if you think about the evolution of the public school system over time, once upon a time it was a bit of a monolith, and every school was pretty much the same. And I'm not saying the students were exactly the same, but they were a little bit more homogeneous than they are now. And because part of the reason for that being that some students weren't a part of the public school system. After 1973, it became law that all students, regardless of learning ability or disability or whatever, were entitled to a free, appropriate public education. And so the schools changed and became less homogeneous, more heterogeneous. And I think as we've seen over the past few years, as we've been hearing for a while, various societal challenges, we know what they are: the opioid crisis, the widening gap in terms of income and families that are able to support families, and on and on and on, has created a even more homogeneous or heterogeneous kind of a clientele. So I think we start seeing that the school that used to sit, literally that was the school, and that's where you went. And you went from 7:30 or 8 till 2:30 or 3, depending on your school. When you started in late August, early September, and went through May or June, depending on when you started. You might come in a little bit for summer if you needed help, but that model, little by little, is going away. There's still going to be that core school that looks like that, but more and more, it's about personalizing and coming up with new courses, new programs, new ways to meet students where they are and take them where we would like to get them to go. So we talked about a grant tonight, approved a grant, just didn't talk about it, approved it. And again, it's a very, I think, interesting, unique way to spur students' interest in engineering, And also some other areas in terms of appreciating nature and healthy living and so on. But there's a couple of courses that I shared with you a little bit, and Rochelle's here, she can talk more, and Al as well can talk in more detail. We're kind of excited about these. Talk to us about permaculture just a little bit. What that course is all about and what that will look like next year for Above the Notch.
So I would like to put in a permaculture course. I would like to use it as a science elective. It's a combination of science and biology specific, but also working on landscape design. It also plays into a hands-on approach. It plays into math because they have to design out their landscaping portions. Talks about the soils and how to preserve the soils and the nutrients. So it's pretty diverse, but what it will do is permaculture is becoming bigger and bigger in the landscaping businesses. And being able to preserve the land and use the resources of that land to further down how you develop it and move forward. It's being used currently in the North Country in the landscaping businesses. So Audrey Crowe uses it, Mrs. Corey uses it. Root to Rise is a permaculture advisory board. So, and they use the permaculture philosophy for their businesses. So like the hospital landscaping, the local businesses, Reckless, they just redesigned that using the permaculture philosophy. So I'd like to offer that to students and adults that are interested in permaculture and how to set it up. They will also talk about how to set it up in your business. So there will be business planning embedded into that. Community involvement, because it'll be hands-on. So some of the projects with the right instructor will take them out into work with businesses, or possibly we may work with the river landscaping and the town manager to do some projects so that it can be tied together with what students' interests are, because it's personalized. So the other piece to this is that it also will allow students to see the connections of why it's important to take biology and why it's a requirement for biology, because it plays over into a community of where you want to go for study. Like, it's not just going out and planting plants. You have to have the foundation of your classes behind it, or for math, because you have to be able to landscape it out to size, to scale, to use slope, and be able to use those courses embedded in this for students to understand the connections in a hands-on approach. So it's a unique way for students to see how other courses are connected and also offer them an elective credit.
How much time in this course would you think would actually be spent in the classroom versus out in the field? Do you have a sense of that?
All the classes we have right now are project-based learning. So even though, and it can be done anywhere based on weather. So I know in the fall when we did the integrated math class, they were outside a lot because their goal was to take that integrated math and design the front lawn of the school and using scope and slope. And they had to come up, they actually did landscaping pieces, and they actually went out to the businesses and got quotes and figured out what would work and not work in that environment. And then they built their projects based on what their interests were. And every one of those projects were different to what the student wanted to make it. So I think it's a balance, and it will determine, the students will determine how much is done in the classroom and how much they'll do outside.
Thanks.
Around here, you only get to go outside about 2 months a year. You do realize that, right?
That's why I picked it. I wanted to try to do it in the fall.
Those shrubs may have to wait.
Fall/winter.
Yeah.
So is there a particular instructor that you have for this class? Is it a stipend or what?
It would be done through the grant. So for pay wise, it would be done through the adult ed grant. I wrote it into the grant,
Okay,
so,
We'll advertise it.
I'll advertise it. I need permission to advertise it, I guess is the question.
The other new course with really exciting, I think, is manufacturing process CNC operator instructor. And getting that machine used again is a good thing. And I think what's really exciting is the potential relationship with the manufacturers. I'll let Al speak a little bit to that course.
Well, we've done this before. We partnered with Burndy in the past and community college to run a manufacturing class. So this is very similar, but we're partnering with Rotobeck, huge expansion up north. Even in town here, still looking for employees. For us to hire somebody part-time to teach CNC machining is virtually impossible during the day. No one's gonna leave their job to work a block of time. We're not in a position to hire anybody full-time. So this is a way through, again, above the notch and some grant opportunities. We could partner with Rotobeck, work with them, possibly find an instructor or a post for an instructor if we need to, and be able to offer this at night for students above the notch, high school students who want to attend this class. Obviously, there won't be any charge for those students. And perhaps employees at Rotobeck could receive some training as well. Someone walking in off the street, so to speak, over 21, there would obviously be a fee for them, just as there would be for above the notch. So I think it's a good opportunity to expand some offerings with minimal costs and work with industry in town and hopefully develop more of a pipeline of skilled employees for them.
I think it's just good that we're using that equipment again.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
that investment really needs to be capitalized on.
But the course also would allow for, until we did this, we thought about the bike tech, because ultimately the students would also learn how to make parts, right? But they could
Possibly.
also make parts for the bike tech, and interchange here, so that they understand the relationship for real world experiences for that. So I would run it through above the notch in the evenings, so that it would be open to adults and students that want to attend and take the course.
Possibly in time, working with, again, we talked about the grant for this year, but partnering with industry and bike manufacturers. How nice would it be that if we develop or build a sprocket or something for a high-end bike and have that relationship
A
just
lot of
as,
dollars there.
yeah, or just, not too far from us. I know Michelle's very aware of it. Conway and their engineering program have this relationship with NASA, and they
Yeah.
build pieces for the space station. So obviously we'd probably be a little more grounded with bikes, but those types of relationships are really important for students.
NASA pays for the kids to go down twice a year to Florida and
See how
do a
it's
hunch
used.
program and see how their pieces are being used on the spaceship and different for NASA equipment. So it's a really great experience to see that what I'm learning in high school is being applied to the real world. And that's where education's going.
And with Rotobeck, it's a nice partnership coming full circle, because when we received the CNC machine, it was through Rotobeck and part of the grant process that those machines were here without any cost to us. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
great
good.
that
That's a good thing.
they're up and operating again.
All right. Thank you.
And then just while we're just talking a little bit more with above the notch, I think as far as looking at 1920, depending a little bit on how many students we ultimately have and how many courses we offer. But the budget for 1920 was based on a program similar to what we just had this year. We may go beyond that slightly, but, we're looking at, expenses in the neighborhood of $121,000, to run the program. So far, we have, between the two Title IV grants, $93,000 that's already money, I don't say money in the bank, but it's been approved by the state. But we shall have another 10,000 coming adult ed.
It's already been approved.
It's
It's
been approved,
10,300
Yeah,
that was been allocated to us for this program.
yeah, so that gets us, gets us up, in the close to $100,000 already with no further grant support. So that means that we have 90,000 in the general ed budget to cover this program as well, which will likely not have to spend nearly that much, obviously. We did put a little more money in there because we weren't sure what grants would be coming. I wasn't expecting Title IV to come around again. I'd been told that was a one-shot thing, but it wasn't, so we'll gladly take that money and use it next year for above the notch and maybe some other related activities that support personalized learning. And there'll probably be some other grants that will help support the work of the program as well going forward. So from a finance standpoint, the program's in great shape. We made a concerted effort to protect the funds, and try to get those funds where we can build almost a year ahead of time, so that we know that the program is supported going on at least a year or two at a time, pretty easily, rather than worrying about year to year how it's going to be funded. And I think again, that's always a question when it comes to grants and what happens when or if they go away, and sometimes they do, but we try to be very careful with those funds and build up a little bit of surplus when we can carry over. So that's all I have for my report.
Well, the graduation was really nice. It was well done.
Okay, we need to go into non-public session.
Make a motion to enter into non-public session under paragraph 2, section 3 of the RSA 91A:3 of the Right to Know Law 4. The hiring of any person as a public employee, matters which if discussed in public would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. Taking with us superintendent.
Yeah, superintendent, clerk, business administrator, CCC director, and high school principal.
Second.
All in favor, roll call vote.
Ray Cook.
Really nice.
What's in wacky in the
Go right ahead. Not here.
Yep, we just spoke.
Oh, all the way down.
Yeah, we don't know